Tell us, we've got some photos that you've apparently taken during your investigations, and
or drawn.
Pretty fascinating, yeah. And you've drawn some, but there's this Bigfoot footstep, I guess. Looks like this. Yes. And how do you differentiate between like a Bigfoot of a Bigfoot and say Shaquille O'Neal walked through that area?
Well, there ain't too many Shaquille O'Neals running around on the Navajo reservation, but it depends on the context in which the footprints or tracks were made. In those cases, there was usually a sighting of one of these things by a family member or a tribal member. In one of the cases I dealt with, there was an elderly Navajo woman who had what was called sheep camp. The elders will graze their livestock up into the high mountain areas in the summertime because it's much cooler and there's a lot of green foliage for the livestock to feed on and a lot of water, of running water. So up there, she encountered one of these things that stepped over into her sheep corral and picked up one of the sheep and took off with it. And she reported this to the Navajo Rangers department, and rangers were assigned. And so that's how you end up with the tracks that a lot of times that are associated with these.
Did you ever see the actual Bigfoot or just the footprint?
On two occasions. One of the investigations, I did see this thing through the use of night vision equipment and thermal equipment within, I would say, approximately 100 yards of where I was at.
Wow.
And on another occasion,
did it just disappear?
I would drive. It did.
Okay.
And I find, I'll explain it here in a little bit, but my theories in the disappearance and appearance of these things. Okay. But I would drive back and forth from Monument Valley, which was about 4 hours away from where I lived, on my days off. And as I was driving back home, I was coming through a area that gets a lot of snow in the wintertime. And there was probably about a foot of snow at the time, even on the highway. And as I was driving, something crossed over in front of me, in front of my patrol unit, probably around 100 yards, maybe even less than that. And it wasn't a bear. It wasn't, livestock. It wasn't a human being. It was much larger than that. And typically, these things are described as being covered in hair and much taller than a human being. Yeah. And that's what I seen. And it went up an incline that you or I would have had great difficulty in going up that incline as it crossed the highway. So
this drawing that we're seeing of the Bigfoot, this is representative of what you saw from
through the night vision.
Right. Okay.
Through the night vision.
Now, is that? Do you think that's a female or?
The appearances of the Patterson Gimlin films.
Right. Yeah.
Film depicts most likely a female Bigfoot.
It's interesting.
And
it's always a female,
but
she's a looker.
I don't know. She was big. I'll say that.
What? Like how big? Like 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet? How big do you think?
I would say at least 8 foot. Maybe 9 foot if you compared it to the next day in observing the fallen trees and foliage that was around where this thing was at. Yeah. So 8 foot, 9 foot.
Interesting. Yeah.
So you believe that they don't disappear. They're going into another realm then?
I don't. Jonathan Dover, my partner at the time, he's a retired lieutenant. Him and I, we avoid this idea of believe. We get people asking us, do you believe in Bigfoot? Do you believe in ghosts and UFOs
Just
and all of this stuff? We were trained as criminal investigators. And when you go into an investigation, you're going in a blank sheet of paper. And You're not having any preconceived ideas. You're there to gather evidence and information, take witness statements. You collect all of that information and you put it into a report.